Let's get to it. We have a lot to share with you today. So let me just share a few things, everyone. Number one, I'm so glad you're here. Like, you showed up to something called Real Confidence, Natural Authority. And this is a big deal. And we are going to really weave it in to help you with whatever's going on in your life, how many people here have a business, how many people here are in a career. Just let us know in the text chat, because this is applicable to both, and it's applicable to how you show up in the world. And I want you to stay engaged. We have found, as we have been leading workshops for years, and most recently over the last year, really purpose-driven workshops, we have found that those that engage, contribute in the chat, you leave with something really special. So don't hold back, right? It's really important that you engage. And we have a lot to cover. And here at Illumination Academy, we live by these 3 guiding principles. And I want you to think about them. I want you to really dive into what this means for you. So let's look at radical honesty, right? Or radical responsibility. We are the architect of our lives and our own results, our mistakes, and our growth. We don't have to label them good, bad, right, or wrong, but we want to understand that we are the architect. And I'll tell you something, until you accept that notion, maybe just 1% of you're the architect, you're going to keep running up against the world, because the world's going to try and just pull you down. So radical responsibility on you're the architect of your life. Mastery mindset. We take action with peace of mind. So we refine continuously and embrace feedback as fuel for growth. And truth over comfort. So we speak honestly, we welcome challenging conversations, we stay curious and ponder, and we choose what's real. We choose truth over what's easy. So if you agree to these, if they sound like they resonate, just put I agree in the text chat. And hey, Stephanie, hi, Denise, hi, Dalila and Richard, Tammy from Ohio. So just type in good to go, I agree, etc., because these are important. And what I'm going to do for a bit is go ahead and remove the slides and have some honest conversation, because I think there's a lot that I know there's a lot that all of you can absorb and really pull in. So let's start with this. Imagine that any boardroom, any stage, any high stakes moment long enough, and you will see it, the wrong person winning. I think we've all been there. We've watched maybe our competitors, we've watched other elements and things, and we're like, whoa, the wrong person just won. But not because they're better, because they're louder. They're more willing to fake it, more comfortable taking up space, but they haven't earned it. However, this is not sustainable, everyone. In a perfect world, of course, the best idea would win. The best idea would get investment dollars, right? The most talented person would come out on top all the time. The most diligent would get the golden opportunities. But that's not how it works. It seems to be always the loudest voices that steal attention. The most self-absorbed people who get the opportunities. And this is why people mistake bluster for confidence. And then they hand over their authority to figureheads, or they hand over their natural authority to noise. But again, everyone, not sustainable. It's force rather than true power. And write that down in the text chat. Force instead of true power. We're going for true power. And I want you to listen. This is really important. And I fully know this and believe this 150%. Real confidence, the kind that settles in every cell of your body, is something very different than what you've been taught, or the posturing that you see everywhere on the news, on social media, or just what I described. Real confidence is what makes all the difference in your life. It'll make the difference in your relationships, in your success, in your money, in your health. So let me ask you a question. I want you to take a breath, maybe stretch up, reach up, because it's an important question. Have you ever felt your confidence collapse in the exact moment you needed it most? If so, put a Y in the text chat, because I guarantee you are not alone. Maybe you were in a meeting, maybe at a job interview, maybe enrolling a new client, or in front of a group of people, or in front of your boss. You were faced with a really difficult situation or conversation or decision. And inside, at the moment that mattered most, you shut down. Your brain went into overdrive, or you went into paralysis, or you shrank when you should have spoken up. And maybe you said yes when really you should have said no. That moment wasn't about fear or stress. That moment was what we call the invisible identity ceiling. Jot that down, invisible identity ceiling. And if you're here, you know this is costing you, and opportunities you don't take, and conversations you don't have, in the version of you're not stepping into. And today, we're going to not just manage it, we're going to dissolve it. Sound good, everyone? Because this is what we do at Illumination Academy. We use ancient teachings, we use modern neuroscience, we use energy, mindset, all of it to create this perfect formula for self-mastery. And when you have self-mastery, you can create a life you love. You can design your destiny. You can manifest, shape, whatever your word is. But remember this, an agitated mind will only manifest more agitation. So I want to show you that this model of Illumination Academy, we've been developing for the last 10 years. And this is how we approach transformation. We approach it with vision, with identity. And here's why those two things. Most people don't even know what they want. They've stuffed it down because somewhere they think they can't have it. Then they get stuck in an identity that the brain, I'll talk to you about that in a little bit, the brain keeps just locking it down, but it's not the identity for their future. And then we work on confidence, which is what we are going to dive into today. So these are like three independent systems or pillars, right? The vision, identity, confidence. And then when you work on each of those, you learn how to navigate the world, you elevate, and then you can manifest in a way that brings you to self-mastery. This is what is possible when all three aligned. And so the internal methodology we use is called the Prosperity Code Coaching Method. It's a phenomenal process. It's like an upgrade to your internal operating system. But again, today we're going to focus on this one piece because we don't have all day. We don't have days. We have maybe 75, 90 minutes, and we're going to focus on confidence. And so specifically, listen up, we're going to focus on the exact moment your confidence collapses and what's really happening. Why everything you've tried to fix the confidence or the collapse or the low self-esteem has failed. The invisible identity loop keeping you stuck, playing the same game, in the same relationship, having the same amount of money, and what it actually takes to dissolve all this. Here's what we're not going to do today, everyone. We're not going to just give you affirmations. I'm not going to teach you body language hacks you can find on YouTube. We could do that. I'm a behavior expert, but it's not long lasting. I'm not telling you to fake it till you make it. Instead, we're going to look at the foundation of confidence, the foundation of self-esteem and natural authority. And we'll look at the brain, the nervous system, and the responsive they've been programmed for. Particularly your brain, your nervous system, and how they have been programmed. And more importantly, everyone, how those responses form your identity. Because if you want lasting change, it has to be done at this level. By the end of today, you're going to understand why confidence collapses in those key moments and how those moments impact your self, identity, and image over time, and what to do about it. Is this landing for you? And those of you that are just popping on, welcome. Really glad to see you here. So think about it as we're going to look at how the identity sets up all the habits and patterns in your life that create the life you're living right now, for better or worse. I don't like to get into good, bad, right, or wrong, but we look at this. And finally, I'll show you the path forward and exactly what needs to happen to make a profound change and how you show up in the world for yourself, for the people who matter most in your life, for the most important goals, for your career, for your income, for the people you love. So that I believe prosperity, it's a very spiritual word, and it does mean this leveling up, this higher consciousness in every aspect of your life, your health, your wealth, your love, your spirituality. All right, everyone. So just a little bit about before we get into what does work, I need to show you why traditional confidence building strategies don't work, because I lived this. I know this intimately. The first part of my life, I used to be a professional flutist. So I would be in finals of an audition. If anybody is familiar with that, oh man, it's grueling. You fly to these different places that have one opening. You're behind a screen, you're playing round after round, and the committee's just like, next, and maybe you get passed to the next round. And so I'd be in the finals of an audition, maybe playing 5, 6, 7 rounds in a grueling day. And then it would come down to 2 or 3 of us for one position. At that point, it wasn't about the talent. It wasn't about who was a better player at that level. Everyone in that final round could play. Any one of them could fill the role. It was about who had the best day because they had the operating system that locked in a new level of confidence and certainty. It was about who held it together, who had authority over their own nervous system, their emotions, who had authority over their own thought flow. And so I watched talented players never realize their full potential because they couldn't hold confidence when it mattered. And I was one of them for years until I figured out what was going on. And for that, let's dive into what we call we're going to bust some myths, if that's okay, everyone. So I think that being a musician, being a performer, has anybody here been on stage, or maybe you have something you're really working for, something really important? Just put in the text chat what that is. Because again, like I mentioned, I spent half my life playing and performing. And that time, that point where I needed it most, where somebody said, okay, just play that lick again, play that solo again. If there was any doubt and I buckled, it was over. I had spent hundreds of dollars to get there, to stay at a hotel, walk on, and then it was soul crushing. So whatever that means for you, like I know that all of you are high performers. You're all doing great things. And maybe it's taking care of your kids. Maybe, amazing, we have a cellist here. Maybe it's building a business or in your job, or like Mary, presentations to international clients. Like, it is not that you're not good enough. It's that internally, that nervous system overrides your soul desire, and all of a sudden you have this intense fear of evaluation. Does that make sense, everyone? None of you are lazy. None of you are incompetent. You're here because somewhere along the line, you've hit moments where you're like, my confidence just busted. I don't have authority over myself. And you did that right when you needed it most. And you're done with that. You want that full potential alignment. Yes, I get the stage fright thing, accepting a higher paid job. Good, Mika. So we've got some really purposeful elements here. I love it. You're in the right place, everyone. So what I'm going to do now is break through. I'm going to take down 2 myths, and then I'm going to hand it over to our resident energy expert, Nick, and he's going to talk about 2 myths, and then we'll get into something called the ego threat triangle, which is a very important part of the teaching. But let's look at the confidence myth number 1. Here's how it goes. If I tell myself the right story enough times, eventually I'll believe it. It's the fake it till you make it. It's the positive self-talk. It's the affirmations. Now, let me share, because we work with the universal laws in Illumination Academy, affirmations can work when done in the right way. Positive self-talk can work when done in the right way. But the thing is, it doesn't go to the depth of what we're wanting to change. No story you tell yourself is going to change the mind of your inner critic, the part of you that has seen you fail countless times and has been keeping a detailed record of every time you messed up to keep you safe. And no affirmation is going to resolve the inner conflict about who you believe yourself to be deep down. Because that's what's happening here. Just take a moment. I want you to breathe. It's like that belief deep down. Years and years of running the same programming, years and years of living with a certain paradigm that your nervous system now responds to in a very specific way for very specific reasons. Until that is rehabilitated, until that is really dusted off from the inside out, you can't talk yourself into being confident. You can talk yourself in for a moment. You can set your energy. Like I've seen people backstage jumping up and down, doing all this stuff, and that's cool. But when they start talking on stage, they buckle because it was not a foundational shift. The foundation underneath was too shaky. And this is exhausting. Does that make sense, everyone? It's like you have to, if you're performing confidence instead of just being the confident energy, it's exhausting. And people perform their whole lives. I performed for decades as a musician. What I wanted was to drop in who I really was. I wanted this sense of absolute certainty. So interestingly enough, when I was a musician, I would gather that through what I called an alter ego. So before I walked on stage, the cellist will know this, I would just be like, okay, I am this flutist Emmanuel Pahoud. He's amazing. Or I'm James Galway. And I would actually take on that energy and walk on stage and play. But at the end of the day, I was like, but I would really love to be me, right? I would really love to be me. So then finally, it was funny. I worked with this coach, Todd Herman. He wrote The Alter Ego Effect. I'm in the book because then I took that alter ego and I used it building a coaching business. This is why we have Illumination Academy. Finally, I was like, no, there needs to be a real installation, which is the work we do now. It is a complete upgrade. I don't want to channel someone else's ego or personality or identity. I want my own. And so telling yourself you can fake it till you make it or just keep talking to yourself can feel good in the moment, but we are looking for the ultimate upgrade. Does that make sense, everyone? Super important. Now, write this down. Confidence myth number 2, knowledge. Oh, this is a big one for seekers. And I just know, I want you to know I've been there. So it goes like this in your head. If I just knew more, I'd be more confident. Oh, if I knew how to do this, I'd be more successful. This one hits close to home for so many high achievers. This is where dreams go to die. This is the coach who has every certification under the sun and 0 clients. This is the healer who has taken every kind of healing modality but can't charge for their services. This is the person that has stood in line to get a promotion and time again, they're just like, oh, I'm not ready, or maybe I don't know enough, right? This executive who second guesses every decision because getting it wrong feels like proof that they were never qualified in the first place. You know this person, you might be this person, and it's okay. The thinking is like, if I just knew more, if I had a better understanding, if I could just get one more piece of information, then I'd feel confident. but it's based on completely false understanding of what confidence actually is. The lie that we're telling ourselves is this: if I know all the answers and get it right enough times, I'll pass the test. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's what most of us were taught in school. Pass the test, study. You are the grades that you get. If you're a performer, you are how you perform. The training conditioned us to believe the right answers equals safety. I'm going to say that again and breathe, because your subconscious mind might try to knock it out. The training in school taught you that when you get the right answers, you then have safety, security. But that's not how the real world works. And it's definitely not how confidence works. Is this landing, everyone? It's sort of like you go to take a risk, take a leap, and somewhere that internal pattern of is, but you haven't gotten it right. You don't know all the answers. It won't be safe. Like your nervous system or your mammalian brain is like, it won't be safe. But safety is a whole different conversation that we're going to get into in the ego threat triangle. And I bet all of you know people who have absolutely no business. This is not a criticism, bless their hearts, but they might have no business being as confident as they are. But what does that confidence allow them to do? It allows them to take chances that you might not, to speak up when you wouldn't, to go for opportunities that you second guess yourself out of. That's the real tragedy. You're the one with the talent. You're the one with the desire. But that lack of confidence is keeping you from going for the win or taking a risk that will pay off. And this is why the best people get passed over. And here's what's worse. Over the years, you become more and more disappointed in yourself for falling short, more and more frustrated seeing less talented people get opportunities that you're like, why didn't they happen for me? Why is it working for everyone else? And then there's this like level of the shame loop and the guilt loop, and you don't even want to deal with it. So you just hunker down, hit a wall. Maybe you get excited. I'm going to do something. An upper limiter hits. You don't take the action. But it's not for lack of information. It is not because you're not good enough. It's because your nervous system is hitting that edge. So I want you to think about, this is the difference between insight and installation. One of the reasons we work with what's called the prosperity code is we take people from knowing to being. So we help you decide what is it that you really want, and then move into being that, because it's all aligned with the law of vibration. So it's no more, oh, I just got to understand this, or I got to test this. It is a full energy body activation. This is where new patterns, new identities actually get installed at a level where they're running not just in your thoughts, in your subconscious, in your nervous system, in your whole being. So everyone take a breath, and I'm going to hand this over to Nick, who's going to share with you 2 more myths, and then we're going to dive into the ego threat triangle, which I think is super important. So, all righty, Nick, go ahead, take it away.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Kisma. This is such an exciting topic for me. We can get into a little bit more later, but I definitely want to get into this third myth before we do that. This is confidence myth number 3. It says, in our mind, it says something to the effect of, if I can just get it right enough times, then I'll be confident in myself. So you can see it's similar to the knowledge piece, but this one's a little more action oriented. This is a house of cards for your confidence. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Now, the upside is that, like I mentioned, it's action oriented. So nobody who falls into this trap is sitting on the couch just doing nothing. These are the sort of people who are really doing the work. They practice, they refine their skills endlessly. A lot of times they prepare like crazy. And the problem is that it all falls apart with a few wrong moves or bad decisions. So basically, it's like one life circumstance away from completely ripping your confidence to the ground. And it is an incredibly ineffective way to deal with uncertainty. Kisma can attest to this. I'm sure from the audition circuit, I've watched it happen literally countless times. One of my jobs in a previous life was to sit on stage with people while they played their audition in an orchestral setting. They often play those behind a screen, and so I was the person there communicating with the committee, and I would see I watched thousands of auditions. And time again, I would see somebody doing awesome. And I'm thinking, wow, this person's really got it. This is really going well. And then that one mistake. And another, and another, and another. And they get cut. Next. That's how that sounds. And that's what made me think of this myth, is that these people, this is not for lack of preparation. And I knew some of these people personally. They prepared endlessly, but their confidence was built on the wrong foundation. The false belief is that preparation will make you confident. It does. It works until it doesn't. We saw this in Olympic performers. Just recently, the quad god, right? Anybody here, we've watched great athletes that have been at their peak and then they go into a slump. When Tiger Woods blew up his whole life, did anybody think it was because he just suddenly became a crappy golfer? No. Something really shifted on the inside of him. That's a whole other story, probably a masterclass in psychology, right? Think about it, though. That's the faulty foundation. So uncertainty is a part of our lives. Human beings and the world that we've built are inherently unpredictable. So when you base your confidence and your self-esteem on getting it right enough times, or having the right answers, or knowing all the things, then all your hard work goes right down the tubes when you get it wrong or things don't go the way that you imagined. Saw it with musicians all the time. Kisma is a great example of this. She'll tell you all about it. It's quite a high stakes environment. You know, you might not realize it. You're like, oh, they're just a bunch of musicians up there having fun. No, they're extremely precise in what they're doing. And the baseline of that level of performance is perfection. Anything above that is artistry. But perfection is the door that you walk in. And if you can't do that, you don't get in the door. I was behind the scenes and just watched that so many times, right? But I've seen it also outside of that. I've seen it with top business executives, people that we've worked with here at Illumination Academy. They blow a key presentation and they collapse. Oftentimes, they'll double down. Want to know what happens when they double down? Because they're thinking, man, I just need to try a little bit harder. I just need to work a little bit more. I can get it right the next time, right? You want to know what happens then? They burn out. They work themselves into the ground. It's not sustainable. So let's look at the military for a second. We'll change focus here. They're constantly dealing with uncertainty. And in the military, it's a life or death kind of thing, you know, if they crumble under pressure. So how do they work around this? Well, they have a saying that says, it's one of the axioms, right? It says, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. No plan will survive first contact with the enemy. It's an understanding that's literally built into their training, and it makes them very comfortable with uncertainty. They have an expectation of it. But there's the downside, because While that belief keeps them alive on the battlefield, when they carry that into everyday life, they form this belief that something is always going to go wrong. So they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is really just a trauma response, right? It's perfectly understandable, but it's also horribly, horribly stressful and counterproductive in everyday life. If all you ever expect is things to go not as you plan and to fall apart and for something horrible to go wrong, well, that's called a self-fulfilling prophecy, and your brain starts to look for those things. You don't have to go through military training to adopt that belief, by the way. There are tons of people out there who just expect the worst. They do it because it keeps them safe. But it does act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It creates more problems and stress in their lives. Even when things are going well, these sort of people, they don't know how to relax. Maybe you're that person. I'll bet you know somebody like that at the very least. This is why we call it an operating system upgrade, not a mindset shift. You can't prepare your way or practice your way into a new identity. It needs to be installed. Preparation is important, don't get me wrong, but preparation without the right operating system underneath it, it's just another house of cards waiting to collapse. So as we bring this together here with these myths, here's what nobody tells you it's that confidence is not just psychological, it is neurological. Your nervous system has been running the same program for decades. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, based on outdated threat assessments from when you were forming your identity. That's why talking yourself into confidence feels like lying. Because part of you, the part that's keeping you alive, by the way, it doesn't actually believe it. And that's why you can't think your way out of it either. The parts of you working to keep you safe from threats are just as smart as the parts of you that want to take risks and create the life that you really want. So you can't outsmart your nervous system. And that's why you can't work your way out of it. People who try this approach, they burn out again and again and again. Real confidence isn't built. It's installed. It's like an operating system upgrade. And it changes how you progress, how you process uncertainty at a cellular level. And once you understand how to do this, that's when everything changes. Stressful situations don't hijack your life anymore. Difficult conversations, they can be met with strength and understanding instead of posturing. And procrastination ends because you feel confident, always stepping into your next right action. Positive action becomes your default. And you no longer face uncertainty with fear. You face it with curiosity and with a measure of optimism. And that changes everything about your life, everything, because that's the filter that you meet every situation in your life. If you recognize any of these myths in yourself, and if you're being honest, maybe all three, you're exactly who we did this for, right? So I'm going to send it back to you, Kisma. I could go off on this for a long time, but I think I'll send it back off to you here.
All right, cool. We'll stay on because we're going to bring up Jenna. And Jenna is our amazing client concierge. So Jenna, go ahead and bring up your camera. And before we dive into that, just think about it, everyone. All the times that you might procrastinate, all the times that you're like, I want this, but when this, then that. Or all the times it's like, this needs to happen before I can do that. It's just, you're hitting that identity ceiling. And we want to help you break through. We want to help you bust that because, again, you can't create a new reality with an old identity. So everyone, welcome Jenna. She's amazing. And she talks with all of our clients, knows them so well. And Jenna, share a bit with our amazing people here on the workshop, on the immersion, what are you seeing right now? Like, what's the texture out there with the noisy, busy world?
Yeah, I totally can see my clients and our clients are mine. I love you guys so much. The thing that happens is that people set ambitious goals because that's what we do. That's who they are. And then they break their own word to themselves. So something happens, like a tree falls on their car, their kid throws up on the carpet, the parent gets sick, something like that. And then they just stop instead of adjusting the goal. And then this starts a shame spiral. And the very first casualty is confidence. So what most people don't realize is that when you break your word to yourself, you set a goal or something that you want to do and you don't do it, you're actually teaching your nervous system that you cannot be trusted. And that erodes everything. And so, of course, our clients have access to all different types of support and tools to recalibrate without the shame. And what we do is we reset the commitment in a way that builds that trust back up instead of actually destroying it to prevent that burnout. So this is actually what keeps momentum going instead of stopping.
I love that. Doesn't that sound amazing, everyone? Like, would you not love tools and teachings to continue to recalibrate so that all the things that you've decided to live for and create can actually happen? So Jenna gave you a sprinkle of that. I'm going to go back to my slides. Thank you to both Jenna and Nick. And let me get a few more notes here and keep going because, again, we've got so much to teach. So I want to share a bit of how we got here. And we just talked about why the traditional approaches fail. Now, I want to show you what's actually happening in the moment that your confidence collapses. But before I do, I need to tell you how I came to these teachings and tools and conclusions that created results first for myself and then my clients. They were not through books. They were through traveling the globe. They were through learning with the top masters on the planet, not influencers on Instagram. So I did what a lot of high achievers do when they hit a wall. I went searching and seeking for those answers. I studied Vedanta philosophy in India with Swami Parthasarathy. He is the foremost teacher of Vedanta, which is a philosophy. It's not a religion. And it's the foundation of everything that we teach. Ancient wisdom about consciousness, about identity, about how the mind actually works. I mean, Nick and I have been to the ashram for, 16 times. I then opened a yoga studio and got into the physical practice and then merged the physical with the philosophical. Finally, sold the yoga studio and advanced into having our own Illumination Academy because we're always using the ancient teachings, because we're always using the spirituality. I wanted to make sure that the whole being was being addressed. So I worked with Chase Hughes. I still do. I run his Avery program. And I got certified in applied behavior research. So it's like being a cognitive surgeon. That's what we pulled together so that when you walk the code of prosperity, because there's a real code to it, then you understand what you want. You identify what's in the way, you clear it, you activate a universal law, and you awaken to a new level. So real confidence isn't something you build on top of a shaky foundation. You've got that. And once I understood how to work at that higher level, addressing the identity, the subconscious, the nervous system patterns, instead of just trying to manage confidence, everything changed. It meant things from childhood that percolate are edited. You have a navigation system that you can solve that in real time. You have the tools that you can solve anything that is charging or triggering to you in real time. And this wasn't just for me, because there was a lot I was dealing with as I went through being a musician, opening a yoga studio, running a coaching program, but for the clients. And one of our favorite clients is Lisa. Lisa, when she came to us, she was truly in crisis. She was head of a public health department for one of the states during the pandemic. So let that sink in for a minute. You can tell that probably was not an easy job. You can imagine the pressure, the scrutiny, the impossible decisions where someone was going to be furious because she was following the law. She couldn't get it right. And so what happened, her entire ego threat triangle, which I'm going to share with you, was activated. Now, let me show what it looked like in real life for her. First, her identity was being attacked publicly. People were questioning her competence, her integrity, her judgment after decades of holding this job. Everything about who she believed herself was came under assault. Her safety was threatened. She lost her position. Colleagues she thought were friends were trying to destroy her, shunned her. So everything buckled. And then she came to us. And she walked through the code, the prosperity code, and within a year, not only had she revitalized herself, not only did she know herself and trust herself and love herself, she started her own consulting business where the very companies that shunned her are now hiring her. And she's done the deep spiritual work. She's done the mindset, the energy, all of it, so that she could dissolve that identity ceiling, that invisible identity ceiling that was holding her back. This is what a true installation looks like. Because we deal with mindset, we deal with energy, we work with universal ancient laws, and we work with modern neuroscience. So does that make sense, everyone? Let's look at the ego threat triangle. And jot this down. This is really important. I know for all of you, you're so sharp. You're here, you're interacting. Thank you for that. It's going to make sense. So there are certain events that trigger what is called an ego threat, right? When this happens, your brain interprets something. Maybe it's a visibility, maybe it's a reaction, maybe even a question, but the brain interprets it as a threat. And it starts running outdated safety loops. Write that in the chat, outdated safety loops. This is the ego threat triangles. So think of it as a window into your unconscious programming. And there are 3 types of threats, as you can see here. Number 1, identity. Who you are, like your self-concept, your social reputation that you think is important, significance, all of these things, that concept of self. When identity is threatened, you might get defensive immediately. You might say, that's not what I meant, or how dare you accuse me of that, or just get angry because someone asked something of you. You're protecting the narrative of who you are. So there's an assumption of perception. There's a social reputation that you think is going to get harmed. There's a narrative of life. It's all coming to threaten that identity. And this can happen so fast. Then there's the safety side. So safety is your belonging to society, the status and social inclusion, hierarchy, comparison. This is all happening at the old brain level, everyone. You're not walking around going, oh, I need to belong to society. That's not it. It's threatening you from your mammalian brain. So when you get threatened, you feel less than. And this safety threat is a silent killer because you will freeze in taking actions for your dreams. Somewhere your brain is saying it's not safe. And so that's why this safety one becomes a silent killer to who you want to be and what you want to do. Then the other side that you can see on the bottom, everyone, is control. Your power and predictability. You need to be right to decide what's next. So when it's threatened, uncertainty becomes unbearable. And you might move into something like micromanaging everything. Don't tell me what to do. Anybody here can't stand to be out of control? You feel safer when you are in control. Like, don't make this wrong. I think this is a very normal human experience until we can get beyond it. Until we can go, wait a minute, uncertainty. I'm the architect of my life. I can design it. So does this make sense, everyone? It's like you really want to, the safety is like you're included in social situations. You're included in the tribe. You're not going to be cast out. So what happens? Like you can probably think about, oh yeah, once my identity kind of got threatened, someone said something about me, or yeah, safety, I was going to go for this job and then my confidence buckled and all of a sudden your brain is feeling unsafe. You're feeling then shame and guilt, which is insecurity. All of it's the worst. Or maybe you just felt out of control. Here's the thing. If you have two threats activated at once, you go into a shame spiral. If identity and safety are both activated, triggered, threatened, you start that I shoulda, shoulda, shoulda. Who shoulds their self? It is not helpful. And sadly, it is part of a current human experience. If safety and control get triggered, threatened together, you go into a panic. This can look like scarcity. This can look like it never works out for me. This can just feel total panic, and panic is very contagious. If identity and control get threatened, paralysis, you freeze. It's like an analysis paralysis. Then everyone, if all three get triggered, it's a total collapse. Full system collapse. You can't think, you can't act. You hit what I call the terror barrier. And this is why you don't go to talk to that client, or you don't take action on your business, or you don't go for the promotion, or you show up at your job just feeling less than. You don't take the leap. Your ego says, not safe, so you freeze. And every day this runs, there's a compounding effect. And that sucks, because at some point, everyone, you're going to be at that last day of your life going, why didn't I go for that? Why didn't I up level? Why was I so scared? Because you were in a complete ego threat triangle collapse. So let's do some work here, everyone. Take a breath. We're going to get, if you're feeling like kind of crunchy, we're going to get you out of it. So don't worry about that. But I want you to think about a recent moment when you know your confidence collapsed. Which threat, identity, safety, control was activated? So think about that. Was it identity? Like, did you feel misunderstood, misjudged, or like someone was questioning who you were, what you were capable of? Did you feel it was safety? Did you feel excluded, left out, or like you were losing status in the world? You were going to be just shunned, right? That's again at the mammalian brain. Or was it control? Did you feel powerless, that you had this uncertainty in front of you? There was nothing you could do. Which one? All three. Identity and safety. All three. It's tough to go there, everyone. And whatever you hear first, like trust it, that's your primary pattern. So if your primary pattern threat is identity, that's what you want to work on. If it's all three, we definitely need to work on that. How about anybody else you want to share? Because here's the problem. You just identified which threat runs your life, but you can't interrupt a pattern that you're inside of. You can't read the label of a bottle when you're on the inside. You need someone outside the system that's collapsing to help you to see what you see. Right? So you might even know what it says, but you can't decipher it because you're in it. And this is where most people get stuck. They're just like, oh, next time it's going to get better. It doesn't. Right? They can name it. They can say it. They can do whatever. And like, oh, maybe next time. And then you get distracted and go do something so that you get a dopamine hit and feel better. Is this landing, everyone? Let me come back to sharing some more. I just want to know, okay, looks like it's landing. So let's talk a bit more about the brain. This fun thing. I love my little toy brain. Specifically, most people, maybe yourself, I know that I've been there, have not a mindset problem, they have an amygdala problem. You know that your amygdala is this tiny thing inside that just starts to implode when you sense there's something of danger. Now, back in the day in hunters and gatherers, the amygdala saved our lives. Even now, if you're walking down a dark alley on your own, which I don't want you to, but you hear something, the amygdala goes, whoo. It might very well save your lives. The other thing that happens, let's say if your prefrontal cortex isn't in alignment, isn't set strongly to, as the fear goes up the hierarchy of the brain, let's say you're at the zoo and you see the spider and you have a big fear of spiders. And you're like, oh, spider. And your whole amygdala implodes. And then it goes up the hierarchy and all of a sudden your prefrontal cortex is like, oh, wait a minute, it's in a cage. You're okay. Then you calm down. So that's just kind of a funny example, right, of what can happen. But when you are working through events in life, when you want more confidence, when you want to hit that next goal, you've got to move past the terror barrier. You've got to drop the stories and identity that you're living with now. And I can tell you, I've worked with a lot of peak performers. I work with a lot of clients. Our entire prosperity code method, our offshore group, one thing they know is you've got to keep going and repatterning, install the new identity that fits with what your soul wants. So when the amygdala implodes at fear evaluation, you don't go into expansion. And if your orbital frontal cortex doesn't check in time, then you hit the terror barrier. You've all heard of reticular activation system, right? RAS, you probably see it like, I don't know, on Instagram or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm going to buy a red car. And all you see is red cars. And then they start to talk about how, yes, when you see positive things and you attract that, all of that is true. But we want to understand that the reticular activation system filters incoming sensory information to regulate this wakefulness and focus. So it continues to act as a confirmation bias because a human is going to seek information that confirms what you already know. You as a human being love to be right. Your brain loves to be right. It's a prediction machine. It's an expectation engine. So that's why you'll start stacking evidence. See, I told you it wasn't going to work for me. See, I told you what happened to me when I was a child was going to hold me back. See. And then you continue to what? Attract, see, focus on stacks of evidence that make your brain right and therefore you right. We all have a filter. Every piece of information comes through and you will fight or argue same piece of content. It'll provoke arguments with people around you. Your brain is just trying to be right. And this is super important. Your brain, your nervous system, your subconscious mind does not care if you're happy, successful, abundant, in love. It just wants to keep predicting right because familiar equals safe. Safe is very attractive. And what do? We repeat attractive. So this is why confidence needs to be installed. It's not built. The ego threat triangle is running at the nervous system level. It's not conscious. You're not sitting there going, ooh, like someone just said something to me. I'm going to be shunned. No, it's an old brain thing. It's not rational. It's an installation in your body through years and lifetimes of conditioning. You can't affirmation your way out of it. You can't learn your way out of it. You can't prepare your way out of it. You can't work your way out of it. You have got to clear it at the source level, activate and install new patterns, and awaken to a new identity. That's what we do with the prosperity code method. It's like this beautiful spiral. At the base, you're like, what is it that I want? Truly want. Great. Identify what's been in the way. What part of the ego threat? What part of the story is in the way? clear that. We have specific clearing modalities to clear that deep down at a soul level, activate a new universal law, a new belief, and awaken. And you just keep going up that spiral. And here's what I know, because it involves the nervous system, because it involves energy, because it involves mindset, because you need ancient teachings and modern neuroscience, you can't do it on your own. Not because you're not capable, but because you literally cannot see your own blind spots while you're in the pattern. Same with me. I always have a coach to say, hey, tell me what you see here. Reflect back. Let's go into this and see what's going on. And so for today, for this immersion, this is why we built something specifically for this for you. So we would love to offer you an implementation call. And this prosperity implementation calls, I'm talking about it. The team will put the link in. I really encourage you to click the link, book your time, get a call. It's free. And we love doing these because we can take people from where they are to where they want to be and understand what's in the way. And this prosperity implementation call is designed to do 3 specific things. Number 1, this is important, diagnose exactly where your confidence collapses and which part of your ego threat triangle is running the show. And remember, this is happening in the background. And until you have the self-awareness, you won't catch it. Number 2, identify which area of your life is being affected the most. Is it your relationships? Do you keep having the same relationship with another person? Is it your money? Is it your health? What's being affected most? Is your career, your job, your spiritual power, your sense of self, so you don't believe in yourself? Number 3, we will give you a clear formula for what it takes to reset your confidence, your natural authority, and dissolve that invisible identity ceiling. So you're going to walk away knowing your specific pattern. Is it control, safety, identity, or all 3? What it's costing you the most in your life. And this is, I know it's a big thing to look at, but if you don't look at it, it's not going to change. What's required to actually shift it? What is that one constraint that we can look at that sets you on your way and starts to change that? And for some people, that clarity alone is enough to start making changes. For some of you, if you're like me, you want to go fast, you're building something, you want to feel more aligned, you want to really have a purpose, you want to align it with your soul, make deep changes. If you're interested in working with us inside Prosperity Code, of course, we'd love to show you what that looks like. Either way, you leave with absolute clarity on where you stand and what's actually required. Now, I have a qualifier and I want to be transparent. Our work is not a Band-Aid. It is for those of you who really want to do the deep work. You can't keep going on feeling how you are. Even with all the success you've created, you can see another level and you want that. So if you're looking for just more free information to consume, this isn't it, and that's okay. There are plenty of other options out there. But if you are ready to make a real change, not just curious, because the people that work with us, they're not just curious, they're ready to get to work. They're done with the pattern. They're done with watching less talented people get opportunities that should be theirs. They're done with that voice in the head that says you're not ready yet. They want that out. So if that's you, book your call. Let us walk you through the system, our framework, and there's no reason for you to settle in your life, everyone. There's no reason to keep making excuses. There's no reason to fall back on an old identity that says, oh, you're just not ready yet. There's no reason. So go ahead, book the call, and I just ask you to be very open with yourself and focus. Think of the intense focus that when you put in this call, which will be maybe 30, 45 minutes, that you can do these 3 things. that you're ready to show up, be on time, be respectful, be focused, and you're ready to take action. You'll be like, okay, this is what it takes. I'm going to take action. And you're open to the coaching. You're like, I want to borrow someone's intellect. I want that insight. So if that's you, scan this code. I'm going to wait 60 seconds. I'm getting the rest of this set up here and give you 60 seconds to do this right now. And here's why. One of the things we teach inside the prosperity code method is the law of immediate action. This isn't about being impulsive, everyone. It's about being responsive to the things that will actually move you forward, right? It's like that 5-second rule. If you don't do it, you're not going to do it. And taking advantage of that positive energy in the moment before it dissipates, before you get distracted. So if you feel inspired now, if you feel ready, you can see the pattern clearly in your ego threat. What if you wait? It's just going to amplify. Your brain will talk you out of booking a call because it's just going to want you to go back to that same place. Let me think about it. Let me check my calendar. The dog might poop. Whatever it is, move it out of the way. It's an old pattern running. Book this call. My team or I will pour into you. We are really, really good at what we do. And that's going to dissolve that invisible identity ceiling. So you no longer feel like you're stuck in this ego threat triangle. You'll override it. So scan that code and go ahead. Allow yourself. The code is right. Oh, let me show the code, everyone. Thank you. Let's get that code on the screen. And welcome, Carrie and Ashley. And Carrie, excited. Mary, good. Sorry about that, team. Next time I should be showing slides. Give me a nudge. But this is the code. You're going to scan it. The team has already put the link up. And I'm going to take a sip of water. And anyone who's hesitating, just get it booked. And all we ask is show up, show on time. My team's going to text you from their number and say, hey, or me, I'm really excited to work with you. Like, we are going to reach out. We want to help. We're really good at pouring into people. So I just want you to show up and be ready. There's going to be magic that happens. And there's another client that I want to share, which is Judge Nicole. Nicole she's a defense attorney. She's a yoga teacher. She's an energy healer. And she knew at a soul level, one day she was going to be a judge. But as long as she was in that ego threat triangle, you could see her walk into a room, her shoulders were up. She was guarded. Maybe she was angry at someone. There was too much of a threat to break through that invisible identity ceiling. Think about it, everyone. There's the identity of a lawyer. There's an identity of a judge. She needed to break through that. And you could read her body language, right? Shoulders up, guarding these important arteries, crossing her belly, the whole thing. Then she worked through the full prosperity code system. So she could clear at the foundational level with our energy clearings, the nervous system patterns that were keeping her in that defensive posture, that were threatening the identity and the control. So it was like a rewire of the identity, installed new ways of being under pressure, because when you're an attorney or when you're a judge, you got to be able to have it. And her transformation, truly remarkable. Not just internal, but visible. I had a call with her the other day, and it's like, she's a new judge and people are raving about her. She's unshakable. Now, I want to be clear on something. She didn't get the job and then suddenly transform. She transformed and then got the job. And she had to walk through a bit of the wilderness. She had to do the work. The road to the bench for her was years long, and we were with her every step of the way. But it's when she went through the prosperity code that there was this final ignition where her nervous system said, let's go. Her soul was like leading, right? And finally, Everyone, if you ever feel like your brain, your nervous system are not up in alignment with your soul, it's something to think about. And so this is exactly what I mean when I say building confidence doesn't just hold up. Affirmations don't rewire a nervous system that's been conditioned for decades. So you can't study your way out of a pattern running at a subconscious level. Now, what I'd love to do is, I'm going to bring up, let me stop sharing slides. Let's bring up Zach and Nick, come on up again and just type in, everyone, a few words of what you're hearing, what's resonating. And I want you to meet Zach. Zach is one of our success coaches. He's amazing. He does so many cool things, and he has cats. We love cats. So think of him as our transformational specialist, and he will be conducting many of the implementation calls along with myself, Lorena, Gahal, and he's so committed to the work. So Zach, you've been having some really interesting conversations with people leading up to this immersion and before. What are you seeing now?
First of all, hi, everybody. I want to tell you about a call I had last week. That's the perfect example of what Kisma just explained. This person knew what they needed to do. They had complete clarity, could articulate exactly what the next step was. But, every time they went to take action, it just total paralysis. The fear story was, what if this is another mistake? What if I can't follow through? What if I'm not ready yet? And here's what we discovered. Every single one of those fears was actually proof they were making the right decision. Because the only time your system throws up that much resistance is when you're about to do something that actually changes your trajectory. Let that sink in.
So good.
Your nervous system doesn't freak out over petty stuff, okay? It freaks out when you're about to step into something that is actually real, okay? We don't work through the fears. We decoded what they were actually saying. We listened to what their nervous system was trying to protect her, in this case, from. Within 48 hours, she'd taken the action she'd been avoiding for 6 months. That's exactly what happens when you stop fighting yourself and start understanding the language your nervous system is speaking. So here's what I want you to remember, okay? Whatever reason you're telling yourself you can't do something, that's usually the exact reason you must.
I love that. That is so true, everyone. Write that down, those reasons. And I've been there. Zach, I know you have. Nick, I know you've got some insight on this. We will tell ourselves those sneaky little stories, and it's the old patterning, right? It's the subconscious mind. It's the negative neural grooves in the brain. It's just like, no, just don't do that. You can wait so you can feel safe and stay where you are. But that's not transformation. And we want to propel you into a true transformation because life is to be experienced in the most magnificent way. Zach, you're so clear. I love how you've been diving into this. Nick, do you have any additional insights to share on this?
Well, Zach said it there at the end. The reason you can't is the reason you must. This is a motto, right? This is something that you can take and write on your heart, everybody. Because the resistance that we put up around the things that are truly revolutionary for our lives, that lead us to new ground, open us up to new possibilities, there's resistance around those things. Why? Well, it's very natural because that is outside of your comfort zone. It's an experience that you're unfamiliar with, something that your mind can't fully conceive except maybe in an intellectual kind of way, but it doesn't have any real experience for it. And there's lots of questions about how that could go. So all that safety stuff triggers around some of our greatest opportunities and our greatest moments.
I love it.
So they frame it a lot as courage, right? You got to have courage to step into that. And I believe in that. I believe that's really true. But I believe that that is way less relevant and not something that you need to rely on or conjure up when you're really just dropped into who you are and feel very confident stepping in to your next step.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
love
really what
that.
everything that we're doing here is designed to help you accomplish.
Wouldn't you say, Nick and Zach, it's why we pull from ancient teachings. We help people work with universal laws. Guys, there's a law called the law of non-resistance. And when you understand how to work with the law of non-resistance, you stop resisting. So this whole ego threat triangle, the work in the nervous system, the terror barriers, they're ways that you resist what is actually right in front of you and what is so magnificent. And those are the things that we want to dissolve for you. So I'm going to, well, let me get back to my slides, but give everyone like a big round of applause. Zach, of course, Jenna and Nick. Nick might be back too later. We'll see if we can pull him back. But let me go to sharing this, everyone. And again, I'm so glad you're all here. And thank you for participating. It's just really, really powerful. So book your call if you haven't. Get your prosperity implementation call scheduled. Maybe even you're listening to the recording. Book the call. Let's get that movement started for you where you're not living in the past. You're designing now in your future. And as you're doing that, I want to walk through the brain body belief method. So earlier, we talked about how confidence is neurological. It's not just psychological. Well, your nervous system has 3 input channels. Your brain, right? So this cute little brain, your body, and your beliefs. And they constantly are talking to one another. So when that ego threat triangle gets activated, let's say maybe you're walking into a meeting and all of a sudden, like someone gives you a weird look and your safety threat fires up. Here's what happens. Your brain starts racing. It starts overthinking and quite possibly catastrophizing. Anybody do that? I've been there. Where all of a sudden you jump, I call it's a jump to, you leap to the death jump, the worst possible case. And the funny thing is when you do that or someone around does that to you, it feels very convincing. As well, your body tenses up, your shoulders rise, you'll go to breathing up here. So this is one of the things I'll look at right away when I'm with a client or interviewing something. Where are they breathing? Is it belly or is it chest? And then your beliefs kick in. I'm not qualified. I'm an imposter. They're going to see through me. I don't belong here. Anybody ever feel like the imposter syndrome is just layered on top of you? You're not alone. And so all 3 feed each other in a loop. Your racing thoughts make your body tense. Your tense body reinforces the belief that's something wrong. The belief makes your thoughts race faster, and then it becomes this downward spiral. But here's what most people don't know. You can interrupt this loop through your body. Your body often reacts first to things, and your body can be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, input channel to your nervous system. Think almost faster than thoughts, if not faster than beliefs for sure. So I'm going to teach you a technique right now that basically you can use in any high stake moments, and it takes 10 seconds. So write it down, pay attention. It is important. And the technique is slow down to speed up. You may have seen this. Anybody watching The Pit? It's a SEAL team's axiom, like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Say that 5 times really fast. And it's on the TV show, The Pit. I thought I was being really creative. I sent this to my daughter and she's like, oh, Mom, that's from The Pit. But it's true. Slow down to speed up. Here's why it works. When your confidence is starting to collapse, maybe you're about to walk into a room, a meeting, perform like Natasha or speak on stage or have a difficult conversation, I want you to do these 2 things, and I promise you they work. Number 1, slow your movement. Don't rush. Don't move your hands a lot. You don't need to fidget. Move deliberately. If you're walking into a room, pause at the doorway for 3 seconds. Look around. Then enter slowly. If you're seated at a table, don't dart your eyes around, because if you're moving your eyes like really fast, you're signaling to your brain there's a threat. Move your head slowly and make eye contact. Do a little eyebrow flash. What's an eyebrow flash? It's something that apes do in the wild, and we do it. We flash our eyebrows to say it's okay. Well, don't be weird about it, but I want you to test yourself. Like when you go get a cup of coffee or you're meeting somebody, just, hey, they'll do it back. You gave the mammalian brain a signal, I'm cool. Okay, so slow your movement. And I guarantee, I know that many of us love to soothe, right? We love to fidget. If you slow your movement and you're breathing in your belly, which is another signal, right, to allow that parasympathetic nervous system to calm everything down, and you walk slowly, you will feel in command and in control, that bottom line of the identity threat triangle. And if you're feeling in control, all of a sudden your identity feels like, oh, I got this. And then you feel safe. That's the first one, slow your movement. Number 2, slow your speech. When you speak, pause between sentences. Even lower your vocal register. There's something called vocal fry. When someone's getting nervous, they're no, just let it land. I'm not saying be weird like the woman at Theranos or whatever. Just like let it sit. Speak from your belly or your chest, not your throat. Give your words space. See what I just did? Give your words space. Why does this work? When you move and speak slowly, you send a signal to your brain. There's no emergency. Fast movement, fast speech signals alert, danger. And so your nervous system will interpret this and move into threat response. Slow movement and slow speech signal, I'm perfectly safe. And more importantly, the person listening to you or the people listening to you are responding to the slow movement, the slow speech, the space, which is saying what I'm about to say is important. And then you have happy brain, calm. And here's the beautiful part. This works even if you're freaking terrified inside. You don't have to feel confident to do this. You just have to override your body's impulse to speed up. Your brain will catch up, I promise. So let's try it now, everyone. I want you to take a deep breath from your belly and then up through your chest, and then let it out even slower. Notice how that feels different from shallow, high breathing. Again, it's your nervous system downshifting from threat to safety. And then breathe in and exhale. We have a lot of ADHD clients, including myself, and this works. Good. Now lower your shoulders and notice what's different when you stay out of I can't do it or it's hard. I'm going to share this. This is really important. The moment you're given something to change, no matter how simple, what did your brain, what did your subconscious mind do? Stack evidence why it won't work, why it's hard. Guys, you can't do it. You have to override it. This is why the upgrade in the operating system is so important. It's so easy to go to the default. And this is just one simple technique. And what we do have inside Prosperity Code, all of these self-coaching tools, all of these energy healings, instant clearings, deep clearings, you have a tool at your fingertips every moment of every day to the point that you'll just recognize them and use them on your own. This is why we believe so much in the full system upgrade. So, before I go on to looking again at the confidence, if you haven't booked your call, scan. Let's get you reset for what it is you want to create, who it is you want to be. I can tell you that whether you have a business, you have a career, you have relationships, none of them are as potent as they can be without this work. This is the most important work you can do. This is why we work with entrepreneurs all the time. We get a ton of coaches, healers. It's also why we have CEOs and VPs. It's why we have moms and dads. Because they're like, I want to be the best version of my life. So scan the code or click, and I'm just going to give few more seconds, because remember, if you tell yourself to wait, I did it today. You know what happened? I'll give you a quick story as you're scheduling your call. I love coffee, and this morning I got up, I was going to do a bunch of work, and the Nespresso was broken. Well, it was like flashing orange, and I was like, So I just started going on YouTube. It didn't work. I finally called them, went through the whole system, got it working. And Nick came down. He's like, what happened? I was like, well, it took about 30 minutes to get the coffee machine working. Now it is. And I said, I had to just get it done, because if I put the machine in the closet and used another way to make coffee, I would never have done it. So please do not put your dreams in the closet. Please do not put your higher full potential self-mastery self in the closet. Let us guide you to, if it's not just confidence, we can help you with vision. We can help you switch that identity. So every word that comes out of your mouth is purposeful, is supporting who you want to be and what you want to do. So when I showed you this, right, the vision, identity, confidence, I told you we were only covering confidence today. And that's exactly what we did at a surface level. We covered why traditional confidence approaches fail, what's actually happening when your confidence collapses, right? That ego threat triangle, why we all need support and guidance to make lasting change, because you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. But look at this model again. You know, we didn't really go deep on vision at all. We barely touched on identity. I mentioned it, but not the depth of the work that we do. So let alone how these three integrate to help you navigate a chaotic world, mindset, and manifest for your dreams and goals, and even elevate consciousness against all odds. This is self-mastery. This is what the Prosperity Code Illumination Academy installs. And so, you know, as a full circle moment, you now know that your confidence issues aren't really about how you think confidence is at all. They're about this invisible identity ceiling running at your nervous system level. You know that affirmations, knowledge, and preparation can feel good, but won't fix it foundationally. You know which ego threat is running your life, especially in key moments and important decisions. And you know you can't interpret the pattern and can't interrupt or clear the pattern from the inside out. So the question is, and I want you to breathe this in and really think about this, everyone, what would be possible for you in your life if you were able to be even 20% more stable in your confidence starting today? Put in the text chat, what would be possible? If you're at home listening, write it down. What would be possible in your life if you were just 20% more? The implementation call that we're offering is your next step. It's where we map out your specific situation, where we look at your exact patterns, where we determine if the full prosperity code process is right for you. Some of you, congratulations, many of you have already booked. We're super excited to get to know you. Some of you are still thinking about it. I get it. But please remember, thinking is what got you to where you are. Action is what gets you out. So if you haven't booked yet, let's get you scanning this. The link is in there. If you want a job, you don't have a job, you've got to change your identity. Something got you to where you are. Javon, I love that. Unstoppable. I mean, how cool is it to think that there's a whole nother level of the way we operate in the world? Not the place where we're listening to our friends talk about the economy or we're glued to the news or whatever. There is a level of consciousness that you can access. And when you do, you're operating from your full potential. But there's some identity stuff that needs to be let go of, and there's some deeper work that needs to happen. I love that, Mika, small business with your art. Maybe that small business is going to be a big business too, right? So I want to show you one more thing to help you understand why we're so passionate about this. This is the 4 Futures model. And when you look at this, you can see this red line down here. This is someone with no awareness of the teachings, no awareness of truth, no awareness of what's possible, and they're just sinking. No one is here. Like, if you're here and you're on this workshop, on this immersion, you're bumping up to the orange as you are. But the majority of people on the planet are in red. The challenge with that is if your own energy, if your own mindset, if your own tools aren't clear and purposeful and powerful, you'll get pulled into the red by being around those people. Don't criticize them, love them, but you have to be careful who you're around. It'll infiltrate your energy and your mindset. Then you have the orange, as you are. There was a time when as you are wouldn't sink. You'd be a straight line. But not anymore. Why? Because there's so much noise in the world pushing you down. You're up against forces that are so loud and so disruptive. You need something to make sure you rise above. So maybe you're doing self-improvement. Maybe you're reading books like we talked about, those things, which are cool. And you can get to where you want. You can get to self-certainty, to success, happiness, abundance, spirituality. It's just going to take a long time. And you might be sinking down a bit or a lot. Then there's green with mentorship, coaching, with a system, an exact process that can get you from here up. And that's what we do at Illumination Academy. We hear it all the time. People going through our programs, going through the teachings, leaving or sticking around because they feel so much better. It's like Melanie. After just 1 year, she increased her revenue by 120%. And the first year working with me, she came in with a lot of tears. There was some stuff going on, but she did the deep spiritual work because she knew that in order to lift up her business, she needed to be aligned. She needed to have that access to the natural authority and the confidence. So going from the first meeting where she was a bundle of tears to where she's just finished her second TEDx talk, she travels, she speaks at real estate conventions, she's making more money than she ever thought because she keeps doing the work. She doesn't stop, she keeps doing it. So Illumination Academy is a sacred and powerful place, unlike anything else. Everyone, I want you to take a breath. And I want you to think about what it is that you truly want out of life. I want you to examine, okay, all the ways that maybe you've stopped. Maybe you've hit a terror barrier. We've all been there. I think you, me, everyone has gone there. I also want you to think about what would it be for you to never stop again, to not hit those terror barriers, to have every tool teaching a complete framework and recipe to move forward, to elevate, to maybe add a zero to your monthly income, to get that promotion, to have the love of your life, this is what we do. So if you haven't booked a call, book your call. And I also want to thank the team for being here. I want to thank all of you. If you're listening at home, thank you for listening. You're amazing. Make sure you follow up. You get your prosperity implementation call, because life is to be magnificent, and it really, really can be. And we've got the recipe to help you get there. So everyone, I'm sending you a big hug. Thank you for being on with us at the Real Confidence Natural Authority Immersion. You're amazing, and we can't wait to get to know you more. Big hugs. Namaste.